So are you curious as to what's in store for wizards in the new player's handbook? Well, you're in luck. Because behind today's secret door, what's in store for wizards? So behind today's secret door, what's in store for wizards? This is Secret Door, a channel devoted to in-depth discussion about Dungeons and Dragons, and my name is Matt Morich. So before I get started, let me point out I have started a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, the help would be greatly appreciated. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment, and thank you so much to Marcelo and to Doug for your support. All right, I imagine this will be a fairly quick video because there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about. This is a video that's based on the interview with Jeremy Crawford that came out a couple of weeks ago now regarding what's going to be happening with Wizard in the 2024 Player's Handbook. In the course of that interview, he talks over several different topics, but there isn't a whole lot of substance that he discussed as far as I'm concerned. Because really the matter of a wizard is spells, and really nothing was discussed in terms of what is going on with spells in the new player's handbook. It's just a huge mystery. Are they going to be the same as they were before? I am sure that some will. Which ones are going to get nerfed a little bit? Which ones are going to get improved a little bit? Some will get improved a lot. We don't know. He did discuss some changes that will happen to all wizards with the base class that I will go over, and he went into some depth about 2 of the 4 subclasses for the wizard in the new player's handbook. Now that's a point that should be addressed here, right here and now. There are 4. That in itself is an enormous reduction for the wizard. Now granted, of those that aren't being included, a lot of those never really saw a lot of play, but some of them did. Necromancy is not going to be one of the schools in the player's handbook. We have evocation, we have divination, we have illusion, and we have abjuration. But that is a point that I think is just worth addressing. Now, it could be a very good thing because those other schools undoubtedly will get addressed in future books, I would imagine. And it may be that they're going to give them more time to develop so that they will become more playable. How many enchantment wizards did you actually ever see? How many transmutation wizards did you ever really see? But I think it's an important point to note, and it's something that he really didn't even address in that other than saying that these are the 4 subclasses. My overview thinking here, and I just want to put this right out in front, is that the wizard was already immensely powerful. So it was probably still the most powerful class in the game. Now, you may be looking and seeing all these other videos with the other classes and seeing all the improvements that are being made to all these other classes and think that the wizard, by not getting very much, and it doesn't, is going to fall behind. And I don't think that it will. The real truth of it is going to be about the spells. If the spells are good, the wizard's still going to be great. If there aren't a selection of great, powerful spells for the wizard to pick, and I really doubt that will be the case, then the wizard won't be very good. But all that being said, the wizard did improve. It is a mild improvement over where it was in the old player's handbook. The first big change is that all wizards will now, after a long rest, be able to change out one of their cantrips. They're the only class in the game that can do that. That's a nice ability. It's going to always be useful. There's always going to be some cantrip that it wouldn't hurt to have it. I am not someone that thinks that cantrips are that big of a deal. So to me, this isn't that enormous, but it obviously could be very valuable, and it's going to be fun to be able to grab there are always going to be some cantrips that are going to be at least useful or fun. And even in combat, it could be that, let's say you weren't the type of wizard that would normally take Ray of Frost. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't take Ray of Frost, but let's say you weren't. You know that you're going to be dealing with an enemy, or you at least feel it's reasonable to think that you're going to have an enemy that you're going to be facing that day that has vulnerability to cold. Well, then you take Ray of Frost for those turns after you've already cast your big spell. You have it there. It'll do a little bit more. The big thing will be able to switch in and out of the little minor magics that make a wizard interesting. And that will always allow you to have just that extra choice. So a nice improvement. At second level, all wizards will gain the Scholar ability, and this will give the wizard expertise in a skill. I couldn't catch if he was talking about a skill or group of skills, but a group of skills will be the ones that you can pick from. Things like Arcana and History, those type of things. Intellectual pursuit skills. The wizard will receive at least expertise in one of those. So that's useful. That's nice, sure. But the big get all wizards will get, and this is probably the biggest improvement for the wizard in general, regardless of the changes to the Abjuration Wizard and to the Illusionist, is that at 5th level, you will gain the ability Memorize Spell. What this will allow you to do is after a short rest, you will be able to change out one of your preparations. The utility of that, to be able to change out a preparation at a short rest, is enormous. This could have combat ramifications, but really where this is going to shine is in utility. Always just being 1 hour away from the spell that's going to solve a problem in a dungeon or outside of combat. Having just that right spell, and of course the wizard is going to have the right spell to pick from, is enormously valuable. So this is a big get for the wizard. But it's not earth-shattering. It makes the problem-solving ability of the wizard all that much better and all that much more reliable. But that's it. Those are the changes to the wizard. And that should tell you that they felt the wizard was plenty strong enough that it didn't need any further changes. But again, there are going to be a lot of changes. We just don't know what they are yet because we don't know what the spells are. So let's move on to the Abjuration Wizard. The Arcane Ward will now, when it's used, the wizard who used the Arcane Ward, if they had resistance, vulnerability, or immunity to a damage type, if that damage type is applicable, it will be applied before the ward takes the damage. That's a very big deal for the strength and durability of the Arcane Ward. But it's only a big deal, of course, if you do have a damage resistance. But this will mean that right off the top, that other race types, like let's say a tiefling, has traditionally damage resistance to fire, and we'll see how tieflings are handled in the new player's handbook, but traditionally they had resistance to fire. So now fire damage for the Arcane Ward will be cut in half, and then the ward will take the damage, and that's really great. But to hear Crawford sell it, it would make it sound like this is an omnipresent thing that all wizards are going to have. And the truth of the matter is, it's going to be very fringe, but it certainly will come up from time to time. And you could make a very specific build to exploit that. And of course, I think if I were playing an Abjuration Wizard, I would. Later on, when the Arcane Ward can be applied to others, that target who is being protected by the Arcane Ward, their resistance would apply first. So yes, this is a nice improvement. But again, it's a small improvement. It's nice, but it's small. And while it is a small change, as I mentioned earlier, you will be able to make a build that will exploit that. But again, based on what we know right now, one damage type, even something as common as fire, is not all that common. And there aren't race types that I know of anyway that are going to be resistant to the big three. But then, of course, you could get into multi-classing and everything else. So we'll just have to see. At level 10, the Abjuration Wizard gets Spellbreaker. This means that they will always have Counterspell and Dispel Magic prepared. That's a very nice bonus to have. And Further, if they cast Counterspell or Dispel magic and the spell does not succeed in countering or dispelling, a spell slot is not consumed. That's a very nice bonus. And if you were to cast Dispel magic as an Abjuration Wizard, it would only cost you a bonus action rather than an action. But I would imagine we're still going to be dealing with casting multiple spells in a turn, and with a bonus action spell, we don't know how that is going to work with. I'm sure they're still going to have it be that you can't cast 2 spells in a turn, at least 2 leveled spells in a turn. And their level 14 ability will be their spell resistance as it was before. So these are nice bonuses, but again, that should just tell you that they felt that the wizard was plenty good as it was, and that the Abjuration Wizard only needed a little bit of help. The changes that were described for the Divination Wizard and the Evocation Wizard are so minor that they also felt those schools, and Crawford said this point blank, that they were plenty good as it was. When we get to the Illusionist, of course, is going to have the Illusionist Savant thing, and at level 3, they're going to get improved illusions. Now, this is a rather substantial bonus. What they're going to get from improved illusions is that they're going to be able to cast illusion spells without a verbal component. And if the range of the illusion spell was at least 10 feet, it will be improved by 60 feet. Now, this is going to allow the illusionist to be very tricky and very subtle. And I don't mean subtle as in subtle spell, but not having a verbal component is going to be a very nice bonus for illusion wizards. In addition, you're still going to get minor illusion as a free cantrip. It won't count against the cantrips that you know, and it will still be able to provide both an audible and a visual component. Again, what it had before, but that's great that that's still there. But you're also going to be able to cast minor illusion as a bonus action. Now, I don't know exactly what the wording of minor illusion is going to read as, but theoretically, this is a very big deal because casting it as a bonus action is going to be basically giving a wizard character the ability, or an illusionist character, the ability to have cover on demand. Granted, it's illusory cover, but it's cover. There's obviously a whole lot of other things you could do with minor illusion, but to me, that bonus action casting of minor illusion is now, it was already probably the best cantrip overall in the game if the DM was playing nicely with it. But even if a DM weren't playing nicely with it, the fact that it's a bonus action now is going to make it an ever-present thing in combat for an illusionist, and that's great. It should be. This is actually one of the biggest gets the illusionist gets, in my opinion. Now, again, we don't know how the spell will read, but if it's anything like it was in the old player's handbook, minor illusion was not a concentration spell. It lasted for a minute. You cast it and it lasted. If that's still the case, this is great for the illusionist. At level 6, the illusionist gets phantasmal creatures, which gives them the Summon Beast and Summon Fae spells always prepared. That's very nice, and they can cast those spells, or they can use a feature through phantasmal creatures where they can cast it as an illusion. And if they do, they don't expend a spell slot, but the creature has half of the hit points it would have normally. Now, again, we don't know what those two spells will ultimately look like, if they're the same as they were in Tasha's or not. I would have to think, because they are from Tasha's, that they're going to be very similar, if not straight up the same. But this ability, while it sounds like it may be this great combat ability, it's going to be a good ability to be able to cast either of those spells without using a spell slot is nice. But in combat, would you really want to be spending your concentration slot on Summon Fae or Summon Beast with half its hit points? Maybe it's for like a trash encounter kind of a thing. Maybe that would be good, but I would be hard pressed. You're 6th level when you get this ability. I'd be hard pressed to be picking that over Hypnotic Pattern. Even Web is going to be better than either of those two choices. So in combat, I'm not terribly excited about this. I think it will have some ability. And like I said, in a trash encounter, it'll give you something with some pop that you can do that you might not otherwise do. But I think from a utility standpoint, It's very nice. Either of those creatures will have some kind of utility to offer outside of combat. This could be a distraction. This could be straight up utility. So it's a very good ability. It's just not quite as good of an ability as it sounds when you really think about it. At least not in combat. Or, it could be one of those cases where in combat you've burned all your spell slots and this is all you've got, and that's better than nothing. The level 10 ability for the illusory self has also been enhanced a little bit in that it now triggers on a hit rather than an attack roll being made against you. That's very nice. And you'll be able to use it again by expending a second level spell slot or better. This ability is essentially a one-use mirror image, but it is automatically successful. At 10th level, that's a very good use of a second level spell slot. And the 14th ability, Illusory Reality, has been unchanged. Now, the other big change that Crawford talks about is the spell glossary. There's going to be a further expansion of the terms there, and it'll help clarify how spells work. And he specifically talked about this in relationship to the illusionist. I think the hope is that by defining the spell more clearly, DMs will be less likely to be dismissive of illusions at the table. I hope that that is true. I love illusions. And it's a shame that it's probably like a 50% chance at any table of whether a DM is going to play well with an illusion or not. And it's a pity to me because so much in fiction and film for spellcasters is illusion. And it seems like you're just taking a huge part of the archetype of wizardry away if you're a DM that just doesn't play nice with illusions, but there are many that don't. So I hope that the glossary is successful in that regard. But I'm not going to hold my breath either. So that's really all there is to say. I don't want to go on and on about stuff that I don't think is really there. I think that all the changes that were mentioned are nice. They're nice little bumps. But like I said before, the wizard was probably already the strongest class in the game. It didn't need all that much help. Well, that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please share, please subscribe. And if you're stuck and you don't know where to go, you can always search for a secret door. Until next time, I cast bless on all of you.